All right, guys. So I was over on another Discord and someone posted a picture. I'm going to steal it real quick. I'm going to create image reference. And so this thing here is pretty cool. It's a Mac, right? And I think it's a Mac anyways. Weapons. When you start doing more complicated weapons, obviously things get a little squirrely and out of control. And I don't have a lot of reference photos for this thing, so I probably won't get nothing right here entirely. But the idea of modeling these things is really simple. It's not as complicated as you think, especially for something like a cylinder, obviously. Matter of fact, for the cylinder, I'm going to start with an 8-sided cylinder. Let's change the vertices to 8. Rotate this. We're going to do like a low poly kind of version of this. Pull it out real quick. Okay, I'm just going to extrude that for a second and put it out to the back here. I'm going to inset and hold control here. Kind of created this little loop here I don't really need. Not yet anyways, so we can get rid of that. I want to inset this, but I can't really see where the cylinder is going to. Like I can kind of see it sometimes. Sometimes you can't. Instead, inset and then hold control. Just push it out a little bit. It's not going to hurt nothing really. Usually it won't hurt anything. So we can do this number. So the suppressor itself would likely be some little object. Whenever you're doing a high poly model, you usually want to do everything that's unique, like to a real object. I want to do it in its little pieces and parts. A good odd chance this front does something like this. I don't know for sure what it does, but it does something like this. Run back in, that'd be your barrel size. Now you should probably also do this at scale if possible. So you can make this should be a 9mm, I think, or something like that. And it you can make a 9mm bullet, and then you can figure out the exact size of the barrel right here if you needed to, right? But when this subdivides, it's going to look right. And that's just like, okay. Do your additional loop cuts real quick. As a matter of fact, let's push this reference back. It's not in the way. Little things like this even, like we don't necessarily have to do the loop. We could do bevels still. Like that, right? So we can do little bevels everywhere. When this subdivides, shade it smooth, we'll get this result. Okay, and this one over here, same process if you wanted. Little bevels. See, it's really sharp though for games. A lot of times you want to go a little bit softer. Right? Even that's pretty sharp. I don't know about that one. So that's why I don't usually do bevels, but I'll do all these at the same time because we can get away with it. So, not too bad. Right. And so these other components, they start to break down relatively easy, but here's a rule of thumb. Like even though we just did subdivision, if something is easier to do with Boolean n-gon, then do it with Boolean n. You don't always have to use subdivision, right? So if I say like this here, looks like it's going to do a number like this. There's a little bit of a curve to that. I'll just pull that up for a second. This will probably come down a little bit. A little bit of perspective to this, but not horrible. And you can see it's way too thick, perhaps. It's better to kind of keep modeling and blocking out in some respect because you might find that as you make other objects, other pieces of the model, you'll find that some of those help you determine the scale or the thicknesses of other things. So the cylindrical front, I'm going to put a loop cut right here and then pull that back. Cylindrical front, for example, might give you an idea of the depth it needs to be, likely, or like the sights might do that as well, because this sight here, these you can actually build off planes, which is kind of fun. Create a plane, I rotate it, 90 degrees on Y in this case. Scale it down. If this is doing what I think it's doing, I'm not real sure, but I think it is. It's just a plane that is solidified. Add some additional loop cuts. Very much standard modeling techniques, right? Set that, loop tools, circle it, scale it, move it where you need it. Delete it. Grab the bottom section here. It's going to be off-centered. So I'm pressing E and X to extrude that way. It's in the model though. It's kind of hard to see what was going on. But it's somewhere over here, I think, doing something like this, right? It might be right on the top section. And then you add a solidify modifier. Go in or out, whatever you think works better for any given situation. And the only problem I have with the solidify modifier, I'm going to do a symmetrize using mesh machine, turn that remove redundant center thing off because it messes everything up. Oh, it still messes it up. Oh, because the symmetry line's over here. Oops. Let's hit control period. And we should be able to move. Oh, we can't. I didn't realize it didn't do that. So let's do this face. Get a hold of it. All right. Why is I cannot select faces right now? Oh, because we're solidifying. Let's take the edge then. Let's get back to the object. This edge, remove it to X0, maybe. Oh, it's using local. Let's use global. Sometimes you can switch to global. You might need it. Go back to local after. So this should allow me to place the origin point here. And now I can symmetrize it or mirror it. I'll symmetrize it. I'll have something like that. Now I know that does not look correct. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to look up a, whatever this is, a Mac 10 or 11. Something like that. And we can take a look at the site on the front. Okay, and it's a little different what I'm looking at. So they don't look to be that thick. I think I'm a little too wide on it. Where'd my reference go? I got a browser on the other screen. It's as thick as the body, but this body's too thick, I think. I think that's what's going on here. So the body is only going to be a little bit thicker than the actual barrel section. It's going to be a little bit more like this. And this also does a number where, let's turn this off real quick in edit mode. Do a loop cut right here. Pull that down, symmetrize it. So it does this number. It does a little number like that here at the bottom. Almost like it's beveled there. So you can even add the bevels if you wanted now, but you'll see that sometimes that kind of messes things up, so be careful with that one. Let's apply this. Take these faces here, Shift-G, select coplanar, move them in. They'll probably become a little thicker here as well, something like that. Yeah, so I think it's quite that way. I think it's more like somewhere around here. Kind of hard to hit it though, if I'm not real sure what the thickness is doing here. Something like this. It's positive. Right. This one we can potentially subdivide. Big deal. Subdivide it real quick. You can see that's this number. This is a loop. This here, we beveled it, we would get potentially, if we can select the whole thing, get a loop here. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna pull those ones in a little and bevel them further out. The GG twice to just slide them in. This really needs a holding edge here at the top, and we don't have one. I'm gonna try something. We'll see if it works. Not guaranteed, but we'll do an inset, hit O. We might be able to do an outset, edge relic. See if that works out. It mostly worked out. This needs to slide back a little bit though. Gives us a little bit of that holding edge at the top there. It's not too bad. Do a loop cut back here perhaps. Those look like they shift a little in the other reference, so I like that. I'm going to do that here. Control Shift S to do a skew or a shear. I think I call it shear in Blender, right? That's a skew, whatever. Here as well. And grab all that. Potentially inset, hit O, do an outset. I don't have enough geo in here really to hold this, in my opinion. Kind of sucks, but we can try doing an outset real quick. That helps it. Yeah, it's a little bit off now. The bevel. All right, not too bad. Could be better. This section probably could use an additional loop cut down here. Really hard to do that one. Let's do a KC. Pull those to that corner. Oop, we cut across the back here. I just realized that. That's not a good. Let's just move this up a little bit. Bit off, but I want to make sure I don't do that again when I do the KC there. Just want an additional edge down here. That there. Push that to that corner, submerge those. There's those. Those, there you go. I'm gonna try this. Boom. Like that. So we can subdivide that up as high as we need it to go. If that's the result we wanted, I think these are actually rounded on the other model as well. It shouldn't be a big deal to do this, I hope. It's gonna round, like really round now if I do this, but we'll see. How bad. Yeah, see it rounds. Okay, it was like that anyways. I just missed the Alright, cool. All of this I'm gonna bring down. Might mess your cylinder up a little bit. I'd be wary of that, but a lot of times you can grab these little loops, and I'm not guaranteeing this will work, but loop tools and circle it. A lot of times you can get it back to a circle. That's not too bad. This one I'm gonna set flow on. You select the object in object mode, set flow, there we go. You see. Starting to go the right way a little bit. What's happening up here though? Was just looking weird. This whole section. Just the front anyways. For now. We'll do loop tools and flatten. Make it more planar. Right, so yeah, weapons is one of those things that I've done for a very long time that I think everybody ever gotten into 3D modeling from a game that's likely a first-person shooter. I got started this way too. It's just a lot of fun, generally speaking. But it gets boring after a while, after you've done it so many times, you know what I mean? So, if you're still new to it, it's awesome. You certainly do that. That rear sight is really something else, because it's like, I can't tell if it's coming out of this piece here, like it's folded out of it. It looks like something really cheap like that. I'll bevel that one. But yeah, you can use Boolean Ingon. There's nothing wrong with that. Be really useful because you at the end of the day, when you're making high polys, if it's easier to use a Boolean Ingon method, then do it. If you're doing like something like this, like you can bevel these technically. You can also subdivide them. You literally a couple loop cuts and subdivide and do things like this as well. It's really up to you and at the end of the day. I think the bevel works better personally sometimes, but you hit B, Control B, and then C, clamp, and mouse wheel up. Merge all that by distance. Shade that auto smooth or shade it smooth, whatever. And you already know where that's going to go, right? See what's about to happen here. Scale it the right size real quick. Pull it back. Looks like the bottom one is slightly larger. But I don't know, maybe that's I didn't duplicate it, oops. So, looks slightly larger to me, but these are probably cut in just a little bit, like so. I'm gonna use hard ops to do the Boolean. You see that kind of tears it apart there. Sometimes tweaking things can help. Sometimes adding additional loop cuts can help as well. In this case, I'm not sure exactly why it's having such a bad time, but you could try using exact as well instead of doing fast if you use hard ops. By default, oh, the bevel's causing the problem. Okay. You see here the bevel. Personally, I like to not order the bevels like this. Hard ops does this, by the way, under settings. You got these settings here. There's bevel order. Turn that sort order. I like to turn that off usually because that's one of the reasons. When I do this Boolean, I want it to take place after the bevel. That's probably the main reason that all got kind of weird there. But I'll stack bevels on top of bevels usually. And so what I can do is another bevel basically. And I can do it over here at this point now. So we can hold this one sharp and keep this one real broad if we wanted. The problem is it's trying to bevel the previous bevel. So you have to use more segments a lot of times. So we can do that. And that'll get you off to a good start. Plus these need weighted normals. So you add a weighted normal modifier. Rid of that big area. That big. Yeah, so round and round we go with this one. Boolean n-gon's ideal because it's mostly blocky squared shapes. You can literally just do one thing after the other this way. We probably won't do the whole weapon here, but we'll do so much of it, I think you won't be disappointed with this video, hopefully. See, like that. Maybe it's a little thinner, maybe it sits right there. I don't know how it collapses in there, but imagine it just slides into the body a little bit. You can use box cutter for things like this. This is the whole reason I bought box cutter, was just for these specific areas like this. I can just quickly cut these little things out. And did I just cut the reference? What am I doing here? You, okay. Box cutter. There you go. Box cutter's been having a little bit of issues since 3.5. I don't know what's been going on anyways. And so if we do a bevel, the only downside of doing things like that is like you can see here, these edges just, they're kind of lackluster, and the Blender decided to crash too. Blender, why do you crash? And so we'll go back to it. Recover, autosave, sort by date, go to the newest one, and boom, we're right back kind of where we were. Hopefully we don't have too much to do. All right, cool. Even that box cutter turned on for me, that's nice. Yeah, so sometimes you just got to get in the habit of recovering with Blender apparently. See if that works. All right, so I'm going to actually apply this Boolean. Could use a smart apply as well and turn box cutter back off. But the reason why is when we apply a non-destructive bevel now, is great, except this is not great. Look at this edge. This is just nonsense looking, right? So we have to be careful with things like that. I'm going to exaggerate the bevel a little bit, but I'm probably just going to do these ones manually real quick. All of these. This is going to make it so that they kind of do a little bit more of what I want topology wise. Sometimes you get weird shading doing that though. But usually, yeah, it works out fairly well. Try weighting a normal. Yeah. And this is another reason Sub-D just looks as good as it does, because the bevels in Blender actually have little weird issues when it comes to shading. The weighted normal modifier, if you set face influence here, sometimes you can tweak these by doing alt ends and set face strengths, like strongs on certain faces. And then, but like certain ones you might set weak. Like these ones maybe, we can set weak. See if that helps that shading in there a bit. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. But you can play around with that idea if you want. Not really a big deal. This thing's another plane, by the way. Set it over here, go in edit mode, rotate it on Y90, scale it down. This one's a little bit different. I think we're just going to leave it mostly straight up and down. We could skew it later, maybe. We could even do a Boolean in-gun workflow here, or just standard modeling. Like you can see, I want that there, but I want to subdivide here and bring this down. Pull that forward. That's going to be a little bit of a sharp edge there. Huh? Subdivide it again. Slide it down. Pull it out a little. There you go. A little bit nicer that way. This goes in this way. That. Move it in edit mode so that origin point stays in the middle. We don't have to fix that again. Now we have this going on, right? Solidify it. Go inwards. Once again, if you can use bevels, use bevels. Nothing wrong with that. Bump up that count though, maybe. Because we're going to have to punch a cylindrical shape in there, apparently. And I have a feeling it's a little bit thicker than this, but if we try to run this solidify thicker, it just kind of gets a little goofy, maybe, in the corners. Oh, no, it's not. Never mind. We're good. Cursor to selected, create a cylinder, rotate it, pull it out, a little bit up, scale it down. So it's somewhere way up in here in the middle because we got this weird perspective going on. This is what's happening now, right? I'll bubble that in there. Not that much. We don't need that much. Just something simple. Yeah, that worked out fairly well, I'd say. Not too bad. Is it high poly enough to really maybe do a real good bake from? I don't think so. But it's not bad either if you're going to make like a third person weapons or something like that. That's really not, it's not an issue really. You know what I'm saying? Let's do the grip here real quick. It's a box. It looks like a box to me. That's all I see. I'm going to manually bevel it. All right. Loop cuts, or loop cut and bevel maybe. Pull that out. Loop cut. 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 Yeah. Something about like this. Not, we're not going to get it perfect, obviously. Very simple shapes, though. Must squish it all. A little bit more. There you go. Do that in edit mode, not so you don't mess up your bevels when you try to do them. We'll do this one as an 8. It's supposed to be a high poly, right? You can go pretty high with these things. This one we're going to bevel real quick like this. A lot of these probably should have been a little bit more resolution to them. We'll dissolve that one. Yeah, for the most part, I think that'll be okay-ish. This one here at the top, I'm going to run all the way to the top, and I'm going to pull it down a little bit. So G and Z, that loop cut. That's just going to give that a nice look like that. See, the problem is if we add a bevel modifier, there's a good odd chance we run a risk of beveling these things if we didn't do this with enough geo. And I think we'll be all right, though. Yeah, so this bottom section has a little flare coming out of it, which I might have to do. A little bit manually. Thinking about what I want to do here. I could inset and then just maybe pull those ones out, but in reality, it's almost like I'm better off doing another section in here and insetting all of this and then holding control and pushing that in. See that bubble just goes crazy for that though. Doesn't like it. So that's why I wanted to do those ones manually because I had a feeling it wouldn't be able to match that. On the flip side, these ones here are really gonna have to be beveled as well. Then do 8 on it. See how that worked out. Not too bad. Not perfect. Turn loop slide off. See if that helps. No. Weirdness down here. You might have to correct that later, or whatever the case. So it's about keeping momentum here on weapons and any 3D model. If you just keep moving, you're gonna have a better time with it. It's way easier to deal with things little by little, but trying to get the whole idea going is, I think, the hardest part personally. Like you can do each individual element and you won't have any major issue as long as you keep moving. But the moment you start to feel like slowed down of sorts, right? Going through a project, like it seems like it's just starting to drag. That's when it kind of kills motivation on the project and you don't want to really do it no more. So just keep going and going as fast as you can through everything. Get as much as likely to be done as possible, I would say. So here's a great example where you can use that set flow add on these things. It works really good on these things right here. So you add your loop cuts, right? You go back and you select all your loop cuts, and whatever else was already there doesn't hurt either. And now you can set flow. Bam. That's now a higher resolution, right? Wherever it went, it's like somewhere in zero space. Let's pull this reference. Oh, we're too far zoomed in. There it is. Got it now. Let's extrude that out a little. It's not that thick, so when we symmetrize, turn off the remove redundant center thing. It's always throwing errors, causing issues because it's not a good feature, in my opinion. It can be if you're doing like low poly, perhaps, maybe, or certain Booleaning on stuff, but a lot of times when you have open-ended faces, it falls apart. So we can bevel this one too. Go up a bit. All right. That is the safety. I'm just going to throw a cube there for now. I'm not going to do much on that. Not trying to get into creating the like tactile kind of texture to it, right? I'm modeling to the reference, and then I'm going to move it up because obviously we're looking underneath it, right? You can do that loop cut, drop it down on Z, pull that right up there. No big deal. Let's see. Triggers are great for planes as well. So many things you can do with a plane. Because now we have just like this one edge to worry about for the most part. These go up in the housing as well. Housing, the receiver, whatever, same thing. Whatever you want to call it. Okay. And let's see if we can get that right. There you go. We're going to set flow on these. What else we got to do? My reference, it's rounded, but if you ever run into a situation where you have that little front piece, you press E and F while doing a loop cut. Loop cut, EF, and do this number. Maybe all this backside here is like pushed in a little bit. A lot of triggers do this. Wherever my trigger is. Oh, it's not extruded yet. Let's extrude it. That could be useful. Select all this with the cursor selector. Deselect those ones. Okay. I was hoping to grab the sides. I guess I didn't. But might do kind of like the back of the grip we did. We inset and hold control. We might be able to get away with stuff like this. Get rid of that one for now. Delete it. Okay. This front section will be messed up. I'm going to show you a little trick about this. Just do a knife cut and then merge it. That usually fixes it, no problem. And you can merge that out over there and dissolve it or whatever. This will be a solid piece now, hopefully. Same for this. Take that all the way over. Symmetrize it. Boom. Let's see what a bevel does on here. I have a feeling it's not going to do well, but probably because of this bottom section. Yeah. So this might actually be a better chance to do a subdivision. Tighten up the edges here or something. Why am I way over here by the picture, though? That's another question entirely. Center on X. Whoops, I didn't go all the way up. I messed the top up. So let's just delete all that real quick. We got some interior faces going on. Oh. All kinds of little problems with this guy just popped up, huh? Alright, so let's just move it over and then symmetrize it. And kill all those interior faces. That's the easiest way. If they're down the middle like that anyways. Keep bringing that up, little menu up by accident. Alright. Getting there. So we should be able to do really tight little loop cuts like this all the way across. And that should give us a really nice result there. I don't want the top faces though, actually. So it doesn't do any weird like deformations there. Boom. So yeah, even though you can do Boolean Ngon on a lot of things, sometimes subdivision's still better in some ways. It just depends on what you're trying to create, I guess. Like you might choose to use subd on something like this, or you might choose Boolean Ngon on something like this, you know, or whatever, vice versa. You can go all around and tweak things and make them cool or make them not cool, whatever the case. You're still going to have to, at some point, figure out how to do a low poly, if you need a low poly. If you're doing like the first person weapon, or it's just going to be a first person weapon, you might not really have to do a whole lot. I don't know what's going on here at the bottom. What's going on? Okay, this is one of those shapes where it's annoying. I see what's going on. I don't like it. It has like almost like the pill shape, but it comes out the side. I guess you could just, this would probably be better to do subdivision. Let's do it in subd. Of course, I do everything in subd if I can, but sometimes it just isn't not as useful. I'm gonna do another loop cut and bevel it, because this little section is going to, oh, we're creating back here again. Let's go back to X0. I'm going to place the cursor here for now. Yeah, so we don't do that again. This is a little thinner, I think. Something like that, maybe. Okay, so we could just extrude that out. No, not the whole thing, just that face. Pull that down a little. Do the loop cut. Subdivide it real quick. Loop cut, bevel, fade smooth. Loop cut, which is way up here somewhere. Somewhere down here now. Turn that off in edit mode because we got something weird going on. I don't know where it is. It's at the top. We have extra faces. We'll get rid of those for now. We'd probably model the whole mag with like the bullets and all that fun stuff, right? But till then, we could just do this. Bam. This needs an additional holding edge, or you could put a couple through the middle even, because it's trying to pull up way still too much. So these are like getting dragged for the rad. But that would work technically, I guess. There's something else going on down here at the bottom. Usually this is like a little plate that just keeps the spring and everything in there. A little metal slide-in metal plate thing. I don't know what this one looks like in particular, so we can just guesstimate what's going on here. Create something like it, I guess. Do something like this. And it probably just comes out right there. Nothing real fancy for that. Probably not even that thick, and it's probably like half sandwiched into it. So it's probably like up in it a little bit. Okay, this kind of corner here, we actually need a little bit of a different one if we want this to round out. But if we don't want it to round out, we could probably get away with that. So it does. It's not technically proper if you subdivide that, and it does that. But high polys don't really have to be proper per se. Like they just have to work and work well enough that it'll create a good bake. That's really what it's about. Because there might be all kinds of other stuff you have to do to this to make it like super detailed and all that, right? And these look like they came out a little bit further. I haven't symmetrized it yet. Just pull them out a little bit further and then do that. There you go. Boom. Oh, that was a Boolean again. Okay, wait the normal on that. Right, so this is a prime example of where you want, you're going to do Boolean ingon. Yeah, we'll use a 32 side for it. I'm going to take this here and delete it. Press A, F, grab this face that I just created. Whoop, I did not create a face. F, A, F, grab this. You want to make sure it's a solid object. It's just going to extrude it out real quick. So we do the Boolean here. And why am I getting Booleans on that? Or errors on that? No. Why am I getting Booleans? Recalculate outside. All kinds of weird shading going on. Merge by distance, maybe. We're going to save this real quick as done. Normally when Blender starts acting weird and you got things going on that don't seem like they should be a thing, you can see like this whole section for whatever reason lost all of its faces. So I don't know how that happened. Maybe I dissolved it by accident. But the thing is sometimes when Blender starts acting weird, there's a good odd chance it's going to crash soon. Just keep that in mind. I can't do a Boolean for some reason. Why? Okay, that's weird. Does Full Tools do that? No, just hard ops. I was just using it. What the heck happened? All right. I guess that's not an issue apparently. Doing it bevel. Hard Ops needs to update then, apparently. Pretty sure they did just update it too. Machine Tools just updated as well. 3.5, Blender, when they create new versions, they really mess things up somehow. It's like really wreaks havoc on some add-ons. That's a bit of a problem. The LTS versions are great, but every Blender update feels like it's needed. So it's like hard to not update Blender sometimes, right? Just for the heck of it, we'll create a couple cylinders. Why not? And we'll just rotate these out. We'll call it here on this video after that. I think you get the idea what's going on though. It's really quite simple. We'll do that top piece as well where the slide goes. The bolt charging handle or whatever. Go ahead and throw that out. Inset, hold control. Delete that backside. That. There's really no point in not using subdivision on things like this. If it's super easy to do, just subdivide it, honestly. There's no reason you shouldn't do that there. Now, of course, this model in of itself, you would probably do more Booleans on it because this actually has a little section you need to do here, which would be, like, say we could use this one. We'll duplicate it real quick. We'll hide one of them, and we'll get rid of the subdivision. But AF, so it's a solid object. This might get punched in here like this. If it would stop throwing errors, it'd be great. But it might get punched in there. And because of that, do Q and E with hard ops there. Might have to do like a little bevel like that in there, something goofy, make it a little bit larger. I think you get the idea where that's going, right? So when you Alt H, bring this one back, it has like a nice little area that it's kind of sitting in, which is nice. Again, a little bit of an issue here with that edge. Let's try doing a loop cut. We'll do it across the middle of it. Maybe not. It's tempting to. I'm gonna do it across the middle. Weight the normals here as well. All right. So that'll kind of keep that from getting weird for now. All right. So let's do the top. We'll do another Boolean error. Apparently, I don't know how or what that is. Fine. But let's go ahead and do this. Okay, so this starts all the way back above the handle somewhere. It's a little thinner, and then it shoots towards the front. And then it rounds out at the front, actually, I think. So it does like this number. Thinking a little bit thicker than that, though. Let's do it a little bit thicker. It might not be that thick, but we'll see. Okay. And so I'm going to do an AX limit dissolve real quick. Get rid of all that. I'm going to dissolve these two. We'll take these two edges, Control B, hit C to clamp, mouse wheel up to whatever you need. AM merge by distance. Yeah, we can now use this as a punch as well. Because I'm tired of seeing that error, we're going to do brush Boolean difference with Tool Tools. All right. This is an excellent shape to bring down and do this number, okay? Where we add a simple deform modifier. Oh, you know what? It might not work well on this because of the shape after all. I'm not shrink wrap, simple deform. And you would do Z taper potentially. Yeah, you might be able to taper things like this in sometimes, but this one, because we need to taper in on the sides as well for this individual section, that would kind of be rough, a little bit rough to do. And also the cylindrical piece wouldn't do that very well, right? So we won't get away with that, unfortunately. I was trying to show you something, but whatever. Didn't work out. instead, we might get away with doing an inset down here and Alt S it in or out like that. And then you can maybe dissolve that one. That'll give you a taper too. Okay. So, but if you can keep it non-destructive with the modifier, the simple deform modifier, it works out well. Okay, everything auto smooth, sharpen, or use weighted normals, keep sharps, all that fun stuff. And once again, you can see if I add a bevel here, a new bevel. So that old bevel, we'll do this one at 8 as well. Go to 8. I don't know why it was at 5, but which one's causing the issue here? Which one is it? This one. Okay, so I don't know why I would do that. Maybe it's this one doing it. It's the last one. Which really shouldn't be. I'll turn loop slide off for a second. So all the bevels before it, we're going to bump them up even further. We'll do like 14. It should be much higher than that, but my system doesn't like it, so we'll do 12. Okay. And so if it's still doing that, we might have to change the angle amount a little bit. See if we can't bump that up and get a different result. Yeah, sometimes it just stops working. It doesn't like to work no more at a certain point. Kind of weird, but it could happen. And it's something you might have to deal with. So this Boolean itself, this was the last Boolean we did, right? We could put it above that other bevel, and that might work out. Sometimes you can only get away with so much before it starts to tell you it doesn't want to do no more, basically. And we can see here, this might be an angle issue. I don't know which one's doing that. Is that one? Oh, let's take the cutter, actually. I think this one I might have not merged or something. So we'll have to tweak that one somehow. Let's go. Okay, just pushing it in a little bit further, kind of made it a little nicer, perhaps. What about the top? What about the back? Yeah, sometimes you gotta tweak things a little bit, push them in and pull them out, and do whatever you gotta do, I guess. But overall, kind of the deal there, huh? Add the weighted normal to the bottom, and last touch here, we're gonna do the cylinder. This section. This one's kind of low slung. Looks well, I guess because we're at an angle looking at the bottom, it's actually probably about the right height, but this piece is really complicated. Actually, it's not real complicated. It's kind of not one you want to do probably because it has textiles on it, like it has bumps on it, whatever. It has that kind of stuff going on, and this doesn't work good with Boolean end gun either necessarily, but we'll try it. We'll do a box. I'm gonna put it up there real quick. Try doing it simple. Oh, it's not even aligned with it. We already did the Boolean though. We didn't get an error that time, I don't think, did we? Didn't notice. So that might work. We could duplicate this, get rid of the Boolean on it, bring it up, scale it in. Oh, place the cursor to the geo there. Might be able to just bring that in a little bit like that. Knock it out like that. Okay, and even if you're going to sub-D model this potentially, this is still a good starting point actually. It's not that bad. Let's do a bevel at the very end just to see what happens, how bad it gets. This would probably run flush, which can't do right now. Unless, let's try this. Could, if, delete this one, take this one, delete it. When a boolean goes dead, it turns red like that. Okay, so, but the other shape, this one, we could have did this. We took it and just extruded it out like that. Let's just extrude it out real quick. Someone tries it. Cool. Okay, now here, check this out. This is fun. You can actually, on this cutter, simple to form, z-axis taper. There we go. Do that number. There. I'm gonna bring it back real quick, shade it auto smooth, and bump up the bevel count here. Hit the normal. All right, so we'd still have to probably do the actual like little grit there to it, right? To the little ridges that it needs. This is a little bit off, but it's not too bad. We almost have the whole profile done. I guess we might as well do this little piece. I was going to end the video at that section, but somebody was asking how I do pipes and cylinders and wires. This is exactly what I do right here. A lot of times I just use the circle part, base. I'm going to line it up. I can't see very well, so I'm going to turn the opacity down on this. Surprised I got away with using it that bright the whole time, but we're going to do this. Just line it up. Okay. And so what's interesting about this is that you can duplicate it like this and just rotate it as you move along. Try to line it up as best as you can, though. They don't have to be perfect because we're going to set flow on it anyways. So this one starts to go back in right around here. All right, so that would mean it would go. Oh, I squished all of them. That's not what I wanted. No, I didn't squish them. Okay. So this one needs to go up, rotate that way. Doesn't matter if it's perfect. We just have to get it positioned right where it would go. You tell I'm way off here, but all these would be right there, maybe. That would be like way over here. So you should be able to select all these, Control E and bridge edge loops. All right, you see how that worked out? We're going to do a number of cuts on it as well. This is what I end up doing a lot of times. Maybe not the most efficient way, but usually you can select one edge, do a ring selection if possible. And if you have a bunch of interior faces, you can't do that. So select all by trait. Interior faces, X, delete them, get rid of them. Select one edge, do a ring selection like so. Select all the loops using loop selection. So that's select loops and rings right there. Now I do a set flow if I needed to, if it works. In this case, something's going on up here. Usually I don't have that issue. Wonder why it's doing that. Let's press, oh, you can see it's really having an issue right now. AM merge by distance, let's delete that real quick. Not sure what's going on with it. But it shouldn't be having these issues. Like an interior edge or double face or something's doubled up in here. And that's not something I've really ever encountered before, but now it is a thing. So let's just symmetrize it real quick. Just keep going for a second. We'll come back and smooth all that out in a second. I don't want to get hung up there just yet. Because I have a feeling what it's doing, or what it's trying to do, is because of extra geo that just, like I said, another face or whatever. And we're going to scale this one out on Z. Kind of place it like so. These round out in here somehow. Okay, so we got a lot of extra faces actually now that I think about it. I'm going to select one ring, do a ring selection, do a checker deselect, do loop selection, dissolve all that. So Control X. And now go ahead and maybe get this right. I'm just going to extrude it out. Symmetrize it. Let's see if we can subdivide. Sometimes subdivision will show you errors quicker than anything else. Much going on in here. Let's dissolve those. Yeah, since we were having problems with it the other way, we'll do it this way. Subdivision off in edit mode. You can almost see what's going on back there. It's just like a little cheap bracket. This comes to an end. So let's try doing a grid fill. That over. We should be able to grab these. We'll take them out along the normal. So all the way from there. See, probably curve that out entirely, but I'm going to use a cylinder real quick. Oh, this is a kind of an interesting area, by the way, because we really kind of have to flatten these down right here. There's different ways you could probably go about doing that, but I think just loop tools flatten might work. On the flip side, you could try doing like maybe like a dissolve of the area. Try doing like an inset perhaps. Might also work for you in some strange way, but I don't know about that. Instead, flattening all this. Probably the way to go. That worked out, yeah. See, a little bit nicer because of that. These ones are still way far off. These also need to have more geo in them because you won't have no holding edges here. But you see how that a little setup like that kind of creates an inset here at the end. Kind of good because we need it. Might need a holding edge here. I'll probably get probably meet up back on the other end as well. Okay, so those will slide forward, bam, and merge by distance. All right, still got to cut the hole in the middle. Not really a big deal. I think we're just going to do a loop cut. E, loop cut. We might get away with this. I don't suspect it's going to work well, but inset a loop tools and a circle. Rotate it a little. Scale it in a bit. We need an edge going around here, which I don't have. It's unfortunate. We'll fix it in a sec. It's not too bad. The only problem is I really want to symmetrize right here, and I don't want to do this section again. See, loop cuts should match up. So if that's the case, we could take like this whole section here, delete it. This set of geometry, we'll duplicate it. Right click, Control M, middle mouse click, and mirror it. Pull it over. X. Alt N, flip the normals. It should work for the most part, kind of, but it's gonna be a little bit. Gonna be a little bit off. I think. Tiny bit. We'll just free rotate it until it's about right. And yeah, so you can see a little bit of a thing, right? Turn on snapping. We're gonna do vertex snapping, and all we're gonna do is just move these over one by one. Or we could pull them back the other way perhaps as well if we wanted to. This really depends, or you can meet them in the middle. Oh, go over there. Gonna save us a little bit of trouble here, I think. Just use this geo over as opposed to like trying to do it again. AM merge by distance. There we go. We got this. Cool. Oh, E bridge edge loops. Do loop cuts. Double loop cut. Select inset, hit O, do an outset there. Now, this section, I don't know, we might not need an extra. Yeah, we do. Extra edge. If that's the case, this is just a quick little edit. It's not as hard as you think. What we're looking for is to shift everything. So this will end up doing this number right here. Think of that start right there. And then the rest of this becomes easy, right? Once you start going up with it, you go across that little area, you make a triangle. Here's your other piece that you might want to go up to, okay? Should be able to merge back into it in a second, but we'll see what happens. The top looks a little bit different than the bottom, but most part, I think we're okay. We dissolve maybe this one. Maybe. I don't know what happened there. Okay. Oh, we got snapping on. It's causing issues as well. Maybe I snapped something by accident. So yeah, that should work out. Let's do that for now. What I think is going to happen here is this is going to run down like this, and then these will just turn into segment like. Maybe just dissolve that even. Then something else perhaps. Wait a sec. We haven't started to cut up here. That's what I'll go. Throw me for a loop there for a sec because I didn't realize I didn't start on this side. Same process here. Swap it over that so we don't run another edge all the way down if we don't want it. And not ideal to do things like that on an edge, but it's still something you can do, and sometimes it's needed. So you can see this is all about connecting these little positions together, basically. Here, the double. AM merged by distance. Maybe it'll get rid of it. Maybe it won't. Okay. Symmetrize it. There you go. Could be better topo. Yeah, we could probably actually maybe merge some of this stuff and it would, you know, probably run this forward. Creates a little triangle there, but not really a big deal to be honest, because you probably pull that up. All that. You know what I'm saying? And you'd have to tweak this here. Symmetrize it. Anytime you can simplify something, do it. Always worth it. Almost always, anyways. Not always. Right. So we'll have to balance these out. I don't want to touch the inside one. I only that outside section. Now, this is not an ideal situation. You don't want to get in this like habit of trying to guesstimate. Like if this is supposed to be cylindrical, don't try to make it by hand. You know what I mean? Probably should do it a little differently. I'm gonna push this all back forward. Even this one here, I guess, could potentially collapse. Let's slide these ones down. Oh. Collapses there as well. It's getting a little squirrely in here, but pull these apart a bit. Don't symmetrize the wrong direction. I've done it before. It'll kill your whole model, right? Not too bad. I have a feeling there's errors all over this thing. I just haven't found them yet. But it's something to get started with at least, because that set flow should not have been getting that kind of messed up. It really doesn't need to. Looks a little thin maybe, but yeah, so any other additional details like screw threads for the barrel here, because you can see we got a big barrel section missing. Not a square. You can still use Boolean end-gun on some things, but this is one I probably would. Let's say like stop it there, use machine tools, add thread. Call it a day, you know, don't even worry about that one. Get it smooth maybe, get it on smooth. You see that right about there. Gonna line it to that one on Z, maybe X too, but not Y. Okay, so I'll pull that forward a little bit. Trying to get a hold of this one and set it and hold it, pull it out a little. But I think you get the idea if you really had to do that. This looks a lot smaller because you didn't move the trigger guard up with it. I was just realizing that as I zoomed out there. So I think this might even be bigger as well. It looks a little small in here. We'll just make it a little bigger. We'll pull that up about like so. Now, could you go through the process and finish adding a ton of details all over the place? I have no doubt about it. We didn't get to the back sight here. We didn't finish the whole model, but it's going to bother me though, personally. I really want that back sight. We're just going to put in the illusion of the back sight. How about that? We'll just do a quick cube, scale it down. Pull it up. Take the bottom and like it's something like that anyways. Nothing too crazy. This would also have to be pushed up a little bit because of that perspective issue, right? All right, let's just do a quick cylinder right here. We're going to line it to the 3D cursor. Just scale it. Oh, that's off. Let's not do that. Cursor to the face. Create a cylinder. Line it to the 3D cursor now. Use machine tools. Place cursor on object. It lets you do that, or you can align to it real quick. Now we got the error back. It stopped and then it started again, and then it stopped, and I don't know. whatever. Mirror it, symmetrize it, bevel it. Pump up the counts, sure. Extremely little tight section in there. Just bevel these manually. Okay, X limit dissolve. Shade auto smooth. Bring the color back. Shaded auto smooth. Wait to normal. There we go. Now it doesn't look so bad in the thumbnail when I post this video. That's a big noticeable one. Probably should do a little rod in here. We should just do that because we can. Like it's super easy, right? Just a rod, but it goes right here in the image. We're blind up to that image, so I'm actually going to move. Take that back face if I can get a hold of it. Pull it across the middle, symmetrize. Oh, can't symmetrize. Once again, because I have done this the wrong way. So, of course, let's put it at 0 on X. Rise, scale, and Shift Y. I'm going to do a chamfer, ring selection, or boundary selection. Bevel. Pull it over there. ES, merge it center. Whoop. Shade smooth, subdivide. Going on with its shading down here, it looks like it needs a weighted normal. That's it. That's probably too thick. There's probably other stuff going on in here as well. A little bit right at the tip. Right there is probably something stupid like that. Like the first baffle in the suppressor or something. But you get the idea. Like the only thing else we could have to do is probably the asymmetrical stuff, like the little ejection port over here probably wouldn't hurt. Doing the other little just nuances, right? The rest comes down to detail. And something like this is really fun. It's really simple. Quite good, right? You have to UV map it and all that fun stuff. So, but modeling almost done. Not too bad. So I'll check you guys out in the next one. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you liked it, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you next time. All right.